He's one of the worst people I have ever seen in politics, and I'm not going to let him terminate the Constitution or destroy this democracy.
You see, what I find extraordinary, Cenk, is you haven't even given it a beat since he nearly had his brains blown out on Sunday on a golf course, which came 2 months after...
Did he give a beat, Piers? Did he give a beat? Did he ever give a beat when he constantly talks about violence? Hey, if someone takes out somebody from with a stretcher, I'll pay the legal bills. Attack people. Oh, my political opponents, I'm going to jail them. I'm going to attack.
In today's video, Cenk Uygur absolutely destroys Piers Morgan and Candace Owens in a heated debate on Donald Trump and Maga. Piers, as usual, tries to play the reasonable conservative while dodging every inconvenient fact. And Candace, she goes full defense mode, trying to twist reality into some kind of victim narrative for Trump and the right. But Cenk isn't having any of it. He calls out their hypocrisy, their double standards, and their outright lies. And the way they react, absolute priceless. So let's dive in and watch how Cenk Uygur shuts down Piers Morgan and Candace Owens in this heated debate.
Well, to be clear, hang on. To be clear, you're trying to equate him making a joke about maybe slapping or punching someone in a crowd who's abusing him with someone.
Can I make a joke
with
about
someone taking an AK
Trump across the face?
Well, hang on. Was somebody
Can I make that joke?
Was somebody
Can I make that joke, Piers?
Well, hang on. Somebody actually shooting him on a rally stage and then very nearly shooting him on a golf course with an AK-47. Do you not see the difference?
So, Piers, those are terrible actions. So what am I'm asking you a literal question. What do you want me to just go?
Could you give it a beat?
Okay, now Donald Trump's a good... Hold on, let me finish the question.
On a human level...
Donald Trump's a good guy. Donald Trump loves democracy. Donald Trump... No, Donald Trump's still the same monster he was yesterday. So I hate that people are shooting at him. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. It's immoral. It's wrong.
Why would you be surprised?
I can't condemn it any stronger.
Why would you be surprised?
I'm not going to tell you that Donald Trump is a decent man
but Cenk,
when
why
he's
would
a
you
grotesque human being.
Why would you be surprised that people are taking drastic action? Unhinged people with unhinged brains who are listening to constant rhetoric from people.
You didn't answer the question.
Well,
what do you want me to do? You want me to politically surrender, right?
I'm asking you a question. Do you not consider for a moment that within 48 hours you're still saying monster, demagogue, dictator, blah,
yes,
blah, 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 blah.
Because that's who he is.
Yes, but this is what is affecting...
So you want me to lie?
Yeah, because...
Piers, tell me this.
Because,
do you want me to lie?
Let me finish. The shooter at the golf course, specifically in his recent social media posts, parroted Kamala Harris, saying that he was effectively an existential threat to democracy in America. You're doing the same. Does nothing make you pause?
You're insane.
Hillary Clinton's doing the same.
Trump does it 2,000 times worse.
Because you think he does it,
your
you
great
should do
idea
it too.
is Democrats shouldn't. Your great idea is Democrats shouldn't campaign against your beloved Donald Trump because some moron, mentally unstable guy took a shot at him. Okay, or two of them did. You know what? I can protect Donald Trump. Ban assault weapons. That'll protect Donald Trump way more than any of, say nice things about him now that some lunatic took some shots at him. Here, let me be super clear. If you're on the left, I know the right-wingers love their guns and Second Amendment remedy, and they've been riled up to do violence nonstop. But if you're on the left and you do any violence, you are not one of us. You're a stupid person who does nothing but make a worthy cause look immoral with your insanity. Never do violence. Is that clear enough?
Or maybe when they constantly hear on the airwaves people like you and Hillary Clinton and others constantly depicting Trump as an existential threat to democracy
guilty,
in America.
Piers, you're totally guilty. You're guilty. You're guilty.
Now Piers is out here acting like Trump is some innocent victim who just happened to have people come after him, completely ignoring the years of violent rhetoric Trump has pushed. I'll pay your legal fees. Knock the hell out of them. Go after my enemies. This is the same guy who literally encouraged his supporters to attack people at rallies and has openly talked about imprisoning his political opponents. And let's be real, Cenk isn't calling for violence. He's calling out the reality that Trump is an existential threat to democracy. Trump himself has said he wants to terminate parts of the Constitution, regardless of one's political stance. But let me just say, what happened to Donald Trump was absolutely unacceptable and has no place in a democratic society.
Maybe
because you support Donald Trump,
maybe
and
it
Donald
is
Trump has done 2,000 times worse, and you know it. You won't
maybe-
even run it on this show.
Okay.
You won't even run it on this show because Donald Trump, what he says is so much worse than anything a Democrat has ever said about him. So you won't even run it on this show. So that's it. Are you telling Donald Trump, you better shut up? You better not say any of those gross things that you always say. You know that he joked about smashing Nancy Pelosi's husband's head in with a hammer.
and the truth
One
is,
of his
Cenk,
lunatic fans
Cenk,
tried to murder Nancy Pelosi's husband,
Cenk,
and he's like, it's so funny.
Here's
Do
the
you know
problem.
that when they try to murder his vice president,
Here's the problem,
he then
Cenk.
turned around and said he deserved it.
Here's
he's
the problem.
He's a psycho,
Here's
and you
the problem.
defend him every day, Piers.
Here's the problem. You have no idea what I've said about Trump when he's done these things. If you had, you wouldn't accuse me of not talking about them, because
So are
I
you telling
always
him
do.
to shut up?
Because I always do.
Are you telling him to shut up?
I want to bring in Candace Owens here. Candace, look, we're 48 hours after the latest assassination attempt, and I'm listening to another liberal who I respect, I've had Cenk on a lot on this show, absolutely losing his mind about how despicable Donald Trump is and what a threat he is and a danger and so on and so on. Exactly the kind of rhetoric that Trump has said he believes is fueling these people to try and kill him. What do you make of where we are with this?
What I make of all of this is that if you are going to legitimately tell people that someone is a monster, that somebody is a dictator, that somebody is literally Adolf Hitler, if you're going to tell people that this person is a constant threat, why wouldn't somebody try to eliminate that threat? That would actually be a sensible thing for somebody to do if they believe the rhetoric that is coming out of people's mouths. Now,
Then
if
all
this
of the
had
right
happened
wing
and
is
it was
guilty,
flipped,
including you, Candace.
Cenk, you just
You're all
spoke for a
guilty.
very long
Let
time.
Candace finish,
10,000
please.
You're gonna
times
have
worse
to
than
learn
you
to
know.
Candace
control
speak.
yourself.
Cenk.
Cenk, you're going to have to learn how to control yourself. I know it's very difficult for you, but you just had a very long time to speak and we were quiet. I promise you can do that. You need to sit on your hands, then you should do that. As I was saying, if this situation had been reversed and I had just watched somebody try to shoot Kamala Harris, I would be definitively saying how wrong it was. I would be saying to people that despite the fact that I do not want her to be president, of course, she is not so much of a threat that she needs to be shot. They don't stop this rhetoric because they do not want these assassination attempts to stop on Donald Trump. And I want to be very clear. The circumstance that we find ourselves in the West is one of remarkable privilege. And when you're in times of remarkable privilege, it creates actually an issue of having a lot of weak men, right? Weak men are the ones that are going out here
Like
proclaiming that Donald Trump is a threat, proclaiming that Donald Trump is somebody that is a dictator because they've never had real conflict in their lives. And you're about to see that example right now, the difference in the demeanor between someone like Cenk and Eric Prince, who I greatly respect, and who is somebody who has seen real conflict and understands what real threat is, right? He understands real threat.
Now, what Candace and Piers are trying to do here is act like only anti-Trump rhetoric is responsible for violence, completely ignoring the years of incitement from Trump himself. Cenk rightfully pushes back, pointing out how Trump has spent years encouraging violence, saying he'd cover legal fees for supporters who attack protesters, joking about assaulting reporters, and even laughing off the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband. When one of his supporters stormed the Capitol, Trump didn't condemn it. He told them, "We love you." And Candace claims that if someone is constantly called a dictator or a threat, it makes sense that people might act violently. But if that logic applied across the board, where was her outrage when Trump pushed the idea that Joe Biden was a criminal mastermind destroying America? Or when he called the media the enemy of the people? Or when he led chants of "lock her up" against Hillary Clinton? This isn't about principles. It's about Maga playing the victim whenever they face real accountability.
Cenk is somebody that grew up, obviously, with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's never had to fight for anything in his life and has never had to put his life before somebody else's. So it's very easy for him to behave like this, to behave demonstrably like a toddler who is throwing his toys out of the pram when he doesn't get what he wants. And so he heightens his rhetoric and says, why am I not getting what I want? This man's a dictator. This man's a threat. And he's not being realistic. And it's embarrassing to our country, whether it was a person on the right or the left.
You guys haven't addressed it at all.
Cenk, I promise you are capable
He
of
wants to
controlling
terminate the Constitution, so
for
you
3
like
minutes
that?
as somebody else speaks.
Let me bring in Eric. Eric, you are a former Navy SEAL.
And a patient.
And a very patient former Navy SEAL, yes. You know, when I look at what's happened here, there are lots of strands to what's going on. And we'll come to the security aspect around Trump, which I find pretty scary, actually, that twice people have, with extraordinary ease, got into positions to assassinate him in the space of 8 weeks, which I just find quite remarkable and shocking and shameful, and a disgrace that the Secret Service has allowed that to happen. But before we get to that, this whole...
They saved his life.
Well, they didn't save his life. They put him in a position where his life nearly got taken. That's the truth. I mean, because they didn't even check
the
the
guy
perimeter.
didn't even get off a shot.
They didn't
and
even
you're still
check.
spreading conspiracy
They didn't
theories.
even check the perimeter of the golf course before he was exposed for 4 hours on that course 8 weeks after he was shot. It is unbelievable
off a shot.
that anyone from
Thank
the
you,
Secret
Secret
Service
for
would
protecting
claim
Donald Trump.
anything but a dismal failure of their preparation to protect the president, in my opinion. But we'll come to that. Eric, what do you make of this debate, which is raging right now, in this debate now, about the rhetoric and the responsibility of people who are on the airwaves, who are in public life, to dial down the rhetoric?
Look, like the video clip you opened with, there's an enormous amount of apocalyptic language spoken by the left, saying he must be eliminated, he is Hitler, and that unleashes every left-wing crazy to authenticate themselves by saying, I'm going to be the hero. This guy, this Ruth guy on Sunday, who was there for 12 hours stalking Donald Trump with a high-powered rifle with a scope, with ballistic plates up against the fence. And what did he have up there? A GoPro. Why? He was trophy hunting. He wanted to be the savior of the left, to say, I'm the one that killed Donald J. Trump. Trophy hunting, saying, for people like you responding to words that you're putting out there. Why else would he have a GoPro?
No, he wanted to get famous. You're totally right about that, Eric. And I hate that. But the way that this whole thing has been framed, as if the right wing doesn't do rhetoric that is 10,000 times more dangerous and violent over and over again. Trump's fans sent pipe bombs to every one of his enemies. Trump fans hit Nancy Pelosi's husband in the head with a hammer, and Trump never even denounced it. How sick is that? That he never even denounced it. He laughs about it. So if we were using the Trump standard, we'd laugh about him getting shot at. But I'm not as disgusting as Donald Trump is.
Now they're trying to frame Cenk as some privileged, out-of-touch leftist throwing a tantrum. But come on, the idea that calling out Trump's authoritarian rhetoric makes you weak is ridiculous. If anything, it's the people blindly defending a man who openly talks about terminating the Constitution who are the real problem here. Candace and Piers don't actually care about dialing down rhetoric. They just want to police criticism of their guy while ignoring his long history of incitement. Then there's Eric Prince, going full conspiracy mode, claiming that the shooter had a GoPro because he wanted to be a hero of the left? What? No, he wanted to be famous, like every other deranged person who carries out high-profile acts of violence. At the end of the day, this is a classic Maga projection. They just demand sympathy for their guy while laughing off attacks on their opponents. And they act like criticism of Trump is the real threat to democracy, when Trump himself has done more to undermine democracy than any other modern president. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out Ground News in the description down below.